welcome to Japan Expert Insights. I am always, on my better days anyway, Michael William Foster. And of course, we have Maya.
Maya, and our very, very special guest today, Chiaki, or as she's known in the circles she works in, Chiaki Yanagimoto. So, Chiaki-san, if you have any nicknames or maybe other, ways of addressing you, please let us know.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me. I never really had a nickname since I moved to here, so Chiaki is totally fine.
Chiaki-san. All right.
Yes.
I had a nickname. I was nicknamed Linus for a lot of years.
Oh, really?
Fact, when I was in grade school, we did You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. That was another play we had done. And there was I was a generation where every other boy was named Michael. Literally, we had 5 Michaels in a class of 15 boys. And so I played Linus, and then we all just adopted our Charlie Brown names. So, and people loved it because then they wouldn't be like Michael, and then 12 people would do that.
Right.
By a Japanese band called P-Lander Z, and it's called So Many Mike, which is about this phenomenon of being too many mics in the States. So yes, I was a part of that, I guess. So that was my nickname.
That's brilliant.
Well, that's brilliant.
I have a dog named Linus. He's sitting back there right now chewing a bone, actually. So.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So we're waiting for everyone to log in, and usually this is the time we just do a little bit of chit-chatting. As you can see, we're just doing that right now, and then we're going to do some introductions here in a second as everyone is logging in. We don't talk about politics a lot in this show, but sometimes it kind of trickles in a little bit. And I'd seen these tariffs, Japan get hit with some tariffs and stuff, and I was kind of appalled by the whole thing. I do this because my grandmother, she was Filipino, and she lived in Manila, and during World War II, and I think I've told this story before on the show, but long story short, they were caught up in all that World War II craziness. And so for me, bridging the gaps between Japan and America is part of my family and part of my history. And my grandmother never held anything against anybody. She said, war is war. People do crazy things when there's war. So, in the spirit of her spirit of not being angry at people and just understanding that human nature is what it is, we built this show. And I know Maya, she's been doing this for a lot longer than I have. But I don't know what's happening in the world, the zeitgeist of separation, of building up walls, and of pointing fingers. We're hoping what we're doing here is the opposite of that. I'm hoping that when people see this is a show about, I came from a generation where we build bridges, we don't build walls. And so I'm very excited that the show has done so well. And we had this unbelievable caliber of guest. It's like a murderer's row. That's actually a good thing for anybody who
Right.
And they just keep getting better. And I should say that they've all been really good, actually, just the same amount. It's hard to say who's better, because when you're dealing with people that are just this level of talent, it's just a wonderful thing. And so today, we have the triple threat. She directs, she produces, and she does distribution. Come on, talk about I should say a wonderful fit for the things that we're doing here. And so today we got Chiaki Yanagimoto-san, and she's a Japanese-born, Los Angeles-based producer. She wins awards, and you've probably seen her work. She did KAMPAI for the love of sake, and she's also the founder of SAKKA, which is a U.S.-based distribution hub for Japanese independent films. She's a creative force, and we have her on the show today. So Chiaki, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me. Really being the bridge between Japan and US, and many other countries is really what I do. I'll be honest, when I saw the title of the episode, it was a bit terrifying. How to direct, produce, and distribute Japanese movies. But hopefully I can, hope to live up to the expectation, and hopefully we can talk about, something interesting and valuable to the listeners.
So we always start off asking, why do you do what you do? What was it that led you on this path?
Yeah, so the path is, long and winding, but I'll start from the beginning. I was born and raised in Japan, in a place called Yamanashi, in a countryside, really small town, less than 10,000 people in the town. And really, the only entertainment was the VHS tape that my mom would rent from a video rental shop. And she would rent American movies, and we would just sit in the living room and watch it. And that was the entertainment. We didn't have arcade. We didn't have, I mean, back then we didn't have cell phones, didn't have video games. So yeah, that was the entertainment that I knew. And I just naturally grew up loving cinema and naturally loving American cinema in particular. And when I was in high school, I didn't really have anything I wanted to pursue other than films. And I graduated high school in Japan. And when I thought about, what I can do, what do I want to do? What do I want to study if I go to university? I thought, I mean, film is really what I'm interested in. And I looked at universities in Japan, but it wasn't really what I was looking for. And also I was very single-minded, and I was like, oh, let's go to Hollywood. So I chose university in Los Angeles, and I came here in 2003 to studied film production. And since I graduated, I've been really fortunate to be working in the film industry. So really early in my career, I worked for a producer called Taka Ichise, who's produced all the J-horror movies, The Grudge, The Ring, both in Japan and in the States. So I learned, I worked as an interpreter and assistant to him. So I learned a lot right next to him. In every meeting that he went, I was there, and I learned a lot. So that's the beginning of my producing sort of career. But that's just, one of the things that I do now.
Right. One thing I want to say is because I believe that people from different walks of life will be watching this podcast. They're watching now and later as well. But you started your career in the industry as an interpreter and assistant. And so look at where you are now. Right? So it is such a leap, but it took, how can I say, if somebody thought that they wanted to start immediately in the industry and do great things, probably some people would think, yeah, I don't really want to do the interpretation and the assistance work,
Yeah.
but you did it. And so basically that opened the door for you in the
Yeah.
industry, which is really amazing. And you never know how that was really a huge opportunity. I see it at the moment as such an opportunity for you to enter the industry and from there do what you wanted to do in it. And
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think, I kind of had a plan, or like, this is what I want to do. This is the path that I want to go, as I graduated my film school. But, looking back at it now, like it couldn't be any more different. It's totally different path that I took, but I somehow ended up in this sort of like similar, position, or like where I wanted to be. But yeah, I would say like interpreter assistant was a great way to learn producing, because nobody really like teaches producing at film school, and really you have to be in it to learn. So yeah, it was and I was, at that time, I was just happy to be in the film industry. So it wasn't really, oh, Dan, I don't want to do this. It was more like, oh, this is a great opportunity to learn. I'm just happy to be learning and getting paid. So yeah, that was my sort of feeling at that time.
Were there certain movies, when you talked about going back a little bit when you were young, you said I loved like Hollywood movies and stuff like that. Were there any in particular that stood out that, let's say, oh, this movie? I think we always have like little favorite
Oh.
films and stuff that like.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. My personal, and I mean, let's be honest, you ask that questions to a lot of people in the industry, like, oh, what's your favorite film?
Yeah.
But to me, it's my personal film, which is a E.T. When I watched E.T. At home, I was blown away. But also, like, had like a lot of emotions that I never felt before. So that always stays. Is it the best film in the world? Like, I don't know, but it always stays personal to me. Another film that I fell in love with is New Cinema Paradise, Cinema Paradiso. It's an Italian film, but
really
it's a
good.
beautiful, beautiful film. Again, it may not be the best film in the world, but it's always gonna be my favorite film.
Fun fact, you know the director's cut of that film changes the ending entirely?
Yeah,
I think you
yeah,
know
and
that.
it's
Yeah, you know that. So we won't say anything to anybody, but
yeah,
it's really
yeah.
fascinating. And I
Both.
don't know which one I like better. I think it's kind of either
I was
way.
just gonna say, yeah, like both versions kind of work for me. So I watched multiple times both versions, but it kind of works for me. I think a lot of people, I mean, people who love that film has slight preference over one, over the
Right.
other. But yeah, both versions kind of work. So yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. You very rarely get a director's cut where you can watch either or, and they kind of both work differently. And that's kind of Dances with Wolves is kind of like that too. It does, the director's cut adds some really interesting things that kind of add pathos to the story, but you can work them either way.
Yeah.
Now, what's fascinating about you is that you were kind of like this intersection between Japan and American films and entertainment, and you've been there. You've actually just shot a film in Japan. So you're there where Japan and America are working together. So right away, obviously you're based in Los Angeles. I mean, how does it feel like being in the US, compared to Japan? Like, what are you seeing? Like, I'd love to like tap your brain on this a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can speak in terms of like what I see in terms of Japan and US.
Sure.
As you said, I just shot a film in Japan, a narrative film that I'm producing earlier this year, and I came back in March. So that's more of a direct sort of experience working with both size, because the producer is American producer, the director is an American director who lived in Japan, but sort of like in the macro view, based in here, definitely what I'm seeing is the demand is getting higher. The demand here for collaboration in Japan is getting higher. I mean, of course, Shogun was a huge success here, but even from like leading up to it, it was like a step of success of Japanese contents or Japanese filmmakers or Japanese stories. And I think because of the situation here, because of the situation in Japan, I think there's more and more collaboration, desire for collaboration. I'm not too sure more and more collaboration would happen immediately, but definitely I feel like the demand is getting higher over here for Japan.
What do you think what's piquing everybody's interest? I mean, you don't have to sell me. I've been interested since I was a kid, but so I kind of know a little bit. But from your perspective, what's changed in terms of like, is it the stories? Is it the culture? What's been shifting a little bit recently?
I think from Japan side, well, let me start from here. I think there were a lot of change in the American film industry. There was COVID, there was strikes, which was really huge impact, and a lot of producers and managers and agents had to be open-minded and kind of had to look for bigger world and bigger talents, talents from Korea, talents from Japan, talents from Europe. I think there's more demand for varied, diverse talents. Also, the way people here watch contents or films or series have changed, and there have been a lot of streamers who became big in the past 10 years. So there's a demand for more contents, and there's so much we can do in Japan, in the US. So from that point as well, there's more demand for production outside of the US. So and also, I think there's been success of Shogun or Tokyo Vice or a lot of projects that tried the collaboration and became successful. So it's a proven, fact that it is possible to collaborate and do a successful film or series. So once the success is is proven. Of course, producers want to make it happen. Studios want to make it happen more. So yeah, I think those are part of the changes that that people are seeing here.
I can tell Maya's chomping at the bit. She's got a question for you there.
Yeah.
No, it was really interesting to me because to hear what you're saying because also I hear people say that there is this search also for actors, you said, right? But also for ideas, new ideas. And then the other day I was talking with my daughter. She's 11 years old and she's very much into anime. And she doesn't watch films yet, but we were talking about One Piece, for example, and just it is a leap, and I'm going on a tangent, I know, but so she said, I asked her, why do you like One Piece? Because she's just 11 years old, and One Piece has been out for much longer than that, right? And she said, the people who write it, they are very much, so much into it, and there is something very strange in the way they think. So she used the Japanese ikareteru,
Mm,
like
crazy.
yeah, like crazy, right? And then, but when you watch the series, you don't really get it that they're crazy. It's just a different angle of seeing human relationships and a different angle of seeing how people react to different situations. And of course, part of that thing, the bigger part probably is the cultural values. Of course, you know how in Japan people value relationships and family and everything, and friendships with nakama and so on. But I wonder, so do you think that this, because there is really a gap between how Hollywood thinks and how Japanese filmmakers think or anime producers think. So
Mm,
do you think that maybe part of this uh, change or transition in Hollywood is that they need something fresher than what
mm.
they have already, and they're looking out for more ideas that haven't been played with yet.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You nailed it. I think we in here, I mean, if you look at the films that were announced at CinemaCon, you see all the sequels and series and remake and reboot. And frankly, in the US, we're looking for new ideas, new and fresh ideas. And I think, as you said, ideas that's from different culture, that's really refreshing. And if you crack a way to make it appealing film or series or book or whatever it is, anime, to global audience, there's a success. So yeah, definitely in the US, producers are looking for fresh ideas and fresh angle of the story. And I guess in a way, because of the success of streamers and because a lot more people are more exposed to stories that are originated from other parts of the country, we're more open to those fresh ideas, and we're thinking, okay, what is in Japan that we don't know yet? I think that's the mentality. And when being where I am now, I get asked a lot from both sides, oh, I want to collaborate with Japan, or I want to collaborate in the US. How can I do it? And I think it's one interesting thing that I was thinking was the motivation, or why they want to collaborate is a little bit different. I'm gonna general and this is a generalization, so I'm sure there's I'm sure, I know there's exceptions, so this is not
Go
100% the
for it. Go
case.
for it. Yeah, that's all right.
But a lot of Japanese say filmmakers or producers of businesses, directors, writers come to me and say, oh, I want to work in America. I want to do something in America. Like, what can I do? Like, how can I make it happen? I think from the US, more people would say, I've never met a person says, oh, I want to do something in Japan. What can I do? It's more like, I found this Japanese story. I want to do something with it. Like, what can I do? I found this Japanese talent. I want to work with him or her. How can I do it? So I think the motivation is a little bit different. I think in Japan, it comes a little bit more from feeling the limitation of what can be done in Japan. Of course, that is true here as well, but also here it comes more from excitement. It comes more from, oh, like I found this great thing in Japan. Like I don't know how to do it, how to make it happen. How can I do it? So it's really interesting how that, is different on both sides.
Yeah, I know that I'm going on a tangent again here, but it really exemplifies the story of, or maybe the example that I give usually, the differences between the Japanese mindset and the Western mindset. So the Japanese mindset is more like adjusting to the environment, right? People adjust to the environment. And so in this sense of the word, it's more like more perceptive and accepting the changes, right? So, of course, if you say it in Japanese, it's like the word ukemi, which is, of course, you accept things, the changes that the environment around you presents to you. But with the Western mindset, it is like you reach out to something, you find out, and you work from there. So it is like you take an exam. The Japanese expression of taking an exam is shiken o ukeru. Okay, and then in English it is take an exam, which is proactive. So this is the active mode, and then in Japanese it is the kind of passive, not exactly passive mode, but so this is the notion. And I think that what you just said is really interesting. And I probably Michael will have something to say here. I don't know because
I was thinking about. I was kind of going on a tangent a little bit about this because
yeah,
you shot a movie in Japan and talking about like the perspectives and stuff. So this is sort of a tangent on a tangent. What was your experience like, Chiaki-san, shooting a film in Japan? What was different? What was this? What did you like? What was going on?
Oh, yeah. So I should start by saying I've never worked on the film set in Japan in a way, in a scale of a narrative film. I've done documentaries, which is a little bit different shooting style. You would have, a week or two schedule, but usually like 3 days or 5 days. So it's not, and here and there, you would go one trip, do a 5-day shoot, and then you go back again, do a 5-day shoot. So it's a little bit different. We don't have that big of a crew. We don't have a schedule that's revised over and over, like 2 months in advance, things like that. So it's very different. So this was my first experience. I would say, I mean, I don't really know where to start because it's just very, very different. People like work really hard, and people are like such a shokunin, like a craftsman.
right,
People
yeah,
are really like earnest. But also like I just learned like the difference of a system more than anything. The way people work on film set here and the way people work, like even if you pick like one department, it's slightly different in every single way. So yeah, it's just very different, but at the core of it is the same thing. We all want to work, make something great. So it's not and I guess one thing I learned in Japan is like the society here in Japan like works really well. Like I think a lot of people in Japan take it for granted that like here in the US, like things may not work. Like like things may not come on time, or things may break, or like people might be on vacation if you want to reach out to them. Like things don't really work the way it should, in a way. Like that's not just the film set, like public transportation, like it doesn't come on time. Like then that's just default. It should, but it doesn't, and people accept that. In Japan, everything is precise, and like function really, really well. So it was a great feeling to have. Okay, so I can at least rely on public transportation, or like things that should work.
yeah,
You'll
yeah,
get there on time. I mean, really, and that's a big thing. I mean, I was there in Japan like not too long ago, and it's like you always know, you hear the stories, oh my God, the toilets. Like, okay, sure. And then you go. And then it's like, wow, no, this you're not kidding. This is incredible. And just the fact that the trains every 5 minutes on the button, they go.
Yeah.
And I think there's a certain sort of, especially on a film set, I could imagine that sort of attention to detail and focus, that certain things will click in place a lot faster. Now, granted, in America, we're messy and we're goofy, and that gives us a little bit more creative, freedom, so to speak. And I think that's a
Very
lot of
true.
places when you hear that where Americans and Japanese meet. Japanese always like the Americans for our innovation and for our ideas, and we like Japanese because things work. So like just
Things work.
things function basically. So there's once again, I think there's places where we can meet in the middle. Now, you were speaking of like being busy and doing 100 things at once. You also released a movie because I know you're documentary, and that's really your bread and butter. And so, and by the way, we could use a lot of good documentaries nowadays. I mean, I think a lot of documentaries tend to be propagandistic, and yours are not. Yours are really good. And you did one about the sarin gas attack 30 years ago now. And so, what led you to do this project, and what's been the response?
Yeah, so I have been producing documentaries. So in my career, I started doing narrative films, and I've switched gears to documentaries. So I've been doing a lot of documentaries, producing. And this one project, I met another producer. I had a meeting with another producer, 2019, and we talked about Om Shinrikyo, a Japanese cult that existed in the 80s and 90s, and which is responsible for the subway sarin attack in 1995. And we started developing a project as producers, and at some point we became co-directors. So the person I met as a producer became co-director. So we both together directed a documentary feature called Om, the Cult at the End of the World. And it's not so much about the sarin attack, actually. It's more about the group, of how this group was born and it became what it became, because it wasn't born as a terrorist organization. It was more of a sort of a spiritual yoga group that happened, like a much smaller scale. And our film focuses on how it became basically international terrorist organization. So we follow that story from multiple angles, from really inside point of view, from the point of view of the people who lived through that horror leading up to it. And we just had a theatrical release in the US in March, starting on March 19th. And the reaction has been great. A lot of people came out to theater. Me and my co-director went to Q&A in New York and in LA. And especially in LA, a lot of Japanese people came to the Japanese people who live in LA came to the screening, and their reaction has, not just Japanese people, but a lot of audience had a great reaction, very positive reaction. A lot of people say, oh, I knew about the sarin attack, but I had no idea, this was actually happening 10 years leading up to it. So yeah, it's great. And we are now talking about Japanese distribution. So hopefully it will play in Japan sometime soon.
Will it be available video on demand here in the States?
Yes, it actually became available last week. Yeah. So March 28th.
And the name is
so
Om.
now
Let's plug this. Om.
Yes. Om, the Cult at the End of the World. It is available on major platforms like Amazon, Apple TV. It's also available on Fandango, Google Play, things like that. So yeah, it's a fascinating story, and it premiered at Sundance Film Festival, which is a good festival for independent films in the States. Yeah. And yeah, it has been a wild, exciting ride. I have a lot of respect. Not that I didn't have respect to directors, but I have another layer of respect to directors now. They do so much, especially around the release. Yeah, it's very wild, but yeah, very, very happy.
Seems like an important story to tell right now too. Just how things manifest. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but it is a story that you feel very relevant in some way, and there's, of course, it's not like subway attack would happen anytime soon, but the way the way the group became what it became, unfortunately, it has a lot of parallel lines to what's been happening In the US, in the world, I mean, certainly cultish sort of mentality or behaviors haven't disappeared. So you can kind of draw a lot of parallel lines to what was happening then 30 years ago in Japan and what's been happening in the States. I'm not saying any cult exists here. I'm just saying
No, it's okay. No, we
you can
understand.
learn a lot of things
Mm.
about looking at observing how it happened back then.
I lived in the West Coast, like Portland and Seattle. So yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it too. Is you expect it from somebody in Portland, but like in Japan, it's like, well, no, the trains run on time. You don't have any cults out there, right? Like it doesn't make any sense. I think it's just something you just don't really associate with Japanese culture. That you would have people living in the mountains, like doing yoga and stuff. That seems like that seems like Cascadia. That seems
Well,
that seems like Seattle mischief. But yeah, I get it. Yeah, that's
yeah, and I haven't watched the documentary. I hope to watch it here once it becomes available in Japan. But Michael, once again, because you mentioned, Japanese culture, I think that in Japan, because of this shokunin mentality, people, once they get into something, they really tend to get very deep into it. And I think it is also true, with spiritual beliefs and also with crafts and with arts and everything. So I believe that this is probably, one of the reasons. And once again, I'm not saying that everybody is becoming a cultist because we haven't seen such things, for quite a while, thankfully. But there are some characteristics which you observe, and they may be or may not be contributing to what happened. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching the documentary. Just yeah.
Yeah,
Be-
thank you. Yeah, I'm excited for you to watch it, and I'm excited for people in Japan to watch it because obviously it's a Japanese story, and but it's told. It was made by American production company, and me and my co-director. My co-director is an American person who never lived in Japan. I obviously was raised in Japan, but I've been here for such a long time, so it does have sort of like a multiple. Angles, POV to the story. So yeah, I'm very excited for that, release.
yes.
Yeah.
there's so much you can talk about. I want to get to SAKKA Films eventually, but I know you're working on more projects right now. So what are you telling us? What are you working on?
Yeah, so the projects that I'm working, so as I said, I'm producing a narrative film that I just finished shooting. So we're in post-production now, and there are a couple projects in development, both narrative and documentary. But development is development, so you always have multiple things going on. Sometimes it happens really quickly, sometimes it takes much longer. But I am working on a few projects. But now that I'm sort of done with the release of US release of the documentary that I co-directed, I have more time to focus on SAKKA, the distribution platform. As you mentioned, I'm looking for ways to expand the community of SAKKA. We do have a film. So SAKKA is a
I was
distribution
going to say we should
platform.
explain to our audience what
Yeah,
SAKKA is.
yeah,
Let's do it.
yeah. Yeah, so SAKKA is a distribution platform that my company launched 3 years ago. It distributes Japanese independent films to overseas audience, and that comes from my experience living in Los Angeles because I produced documentaries and narrative films, and I go to festivals around the world, and I meet Japanese directors, Japanese producers. I watch their films at festivals. I see the audience reaction, which is really positive, and I'm excited to talk about these films when I get back to LA. And as soon as I get back to LA, 2 years pass, and I don't hear anything about those films being distributed in the States. So, I kind of saw a pattern of a lot of great independent films, documentary or not, in Japan, haven't really spread its wings in the global stage, especially in America. And if I talk to a random person on the street in the States now and ask, what's your favorite Japanese films? It's usually either Kurosawa or Ozu, that classics,
Yeah.
or anime. And there's a huge gap of live action contemporary films that need to be seen. And if it's not seen, people wouldn't talk about it, and if it's not talked about, people will forget. So I just wanted that sort of narrative of Japanese films to live and have more presence on global stage. So that is a long way to say I decided to launch SAKKA, sort of like a platform. It is in a way of like distribution platform, but also it's a platform for Japanese independent films, so that we can push it to global audience. We can push the filmmakers. We can introduce filmmakers. We can, talk about what filmmakers want and needs. So that is SAKKA. So we've been doing it for 3 years. We have distributed 19 films so far. 19 films, and then the 20th film that we're going to distribute is coming out on April 18th. So that's for global, almost global streaming. A couple of Asian territories are not available, but it is available in the States, Europe, things like that. So that's what we're, as a company, what we're focusing on right now.
See, one thing I love about SAKKA Films, and for those who don't know, you go to the website, which I think is just SAKKA.com or SAKKA Films.
SAKKAFilms.com.
SAKKAFilms.com. And you spend like $5-6, you rent something. Don't be a cheapo. Rent these films. You can't find them anywhere else, first of all, right off the bat. And second of all, what I love about, and I think in general, why we're so fascinated with Japanese entertainment now, is that it's creative, it's interesting, and it's not done by algorithm. Like I heard like Netflix is putting out a show. It's like, it's going to be Shogun meets Squid Game. Like, really? How did the algorithm spit that out? Really? I've seen stuff on that I could tell was built by algorithm and stuff, and you can come up with something all right, but it's not going to surprise you. And with the films on SAKKA, will surprise you, and they will delight you, and they'll intrigue you. So if you're sitting there and you've binged everything, and you're just like done. I'm giving you a big. I'm giving you a thing. Check out Made in Japan. Check out Sayonara Girls. Check out She Is Me, I Am Her, which I've seen, and I know the director, and that was a very, very lovely film, a very interesting film. There's just so many good movies, and you won't go wrong. Just pick one, drop $6. Would you pay for a coffee? Probably $12 next week, but about $6 for a coffee. You pay for a movie, and you get to see something from another part of the world that will fascinate and delight you. So please, I think that's really what you're accomplishing.
Yeah. No, thank you.
We got something.
Was
something going to go up? Oh, I thought the screen went crazy. Movie time.
No, definitely. Well, thank you for your kind words, Michael. I think it's part of what I definitely enjoy doing this because it's kind of similar to producing. I think producing is, it's a tricky. It's a wonderful job to have, but it's a tricky position. I'm not, as a producer, I'm not like specialized in anything really. I'm not as talented with camera as a cinematographer. I'm not as talented in directing as directors. So I'm not an expert on anything on film production. I just love connecting people and really like making sure that people with talents can really do their own best. And that naturally equals to a beautiful film or series or whatever we're making. So that's really what I enjoy about producing. And on SAKKA as well, there's a demand from the audience who want to watch something great, something refreshing, something different. And there's a demand from producer side or filmmaker side that want their films to be seen, but they just don't know how, or it's not a matter of quality of a film, it's a matter of a system or the scale of the team, things like that. So I just want SAKKA to help both ends in that spectrum.
And it's lovely too because it's curated. I think that's the other thing too, the lost art of curation, and not I used to love buying design books because I knew someone like had sensibilities and came up with it. and it didn't just get like Googled into me, you know. And I think there's something
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, there was an idea in the beginning, before we launched SAKKA the way we did, there was an idea of like, oh, let's, how about you make a platform that, Japanese filmmakers can just register films and throw films in that and make it available. It'll be less work for me, honestly, but that's not a curation, and that's just not what I was interested in. So,
Right.
of course, I'm interested in giving chance to those filmmakers, but it wasn't really what SAKKA was looking for. So yeah, so one thing at a time. But we launched 3 years ago, and now we're trying to come up with ways to, well, not come up, but like we're trying to explore ways that we can do more for the films in Japan and filmmakers in Japan in general.
Right. So forgive me for asking such a simple question and very naive question, maybe. But so if somebody in Japan produces an independent film, so what do they have to do maybe to have their film, let's say, featured on sakkafilms.com? Of course, it is a curated platform. Once again, I understand that. But do they have to reach to you, or are there any other people they can reach out to, or what is the connection process there?
Yeah, so we don't really accept like inquiries. We actually curate films from like festivals or film festival programmers and directors more, but also like people's recommendation of of those festivals. You can still send an email to I think the general email is hello@sakkafilms.com.
Mhm.
You can still send emails and we'll take a look, but our sort of curation is based on the films that went to overseas film festivals. That's why we talk to a lot of film festival directors. My team cannot watch hundreds of thousands of Japanese films, so we kind of rely a lot on those programmers and directors who do that for a living, and they have really great opinions of what is appealing to the global audience. So we're in constant communication with those programmers as well. We do talk to a lot of producers in Japan, what they see as talents. Again, SAKKA's name comes from SAKKA, which is like an author or auteur.
Yeah.
So our focus has been on filmmakers. So we try to communicate with filmmakers directly, and whenever we have a chance to talk to producers or industry people in Japan, we ask them, which directors do you recommend? And then we kind of go from there and reach out to filmmakers, see if their films have been playing at, have screened at overseas festivals, and if it makes sense from both ends, we'll make a deal and we feature on SAKKA. So it's really focused on filmmakers that we believe in, and but we're not closed. So
Right.
I say we don't accept inquiries, but you can still send, and that might lead somewhere. So
What do you think? Because I've always heard conflicting reports on this. Directors in Japan, are they trying to get into the States or not really, or is it a little bit of both? What's been your sensibility? What have you discovered?
I have I will be biased because I live in here, and so whoever in Japan who would talk to me would want to do something in here.
Right. Okay.
So I talk to a lot of directors who want to do something in America or overseas, and I think part of it comes from, again, feeling the limitation of what can be done in Japanese independent industry, film industry. I'm not saying which is good or bad. I'm just saying that those filmmakers are finding more reasons to work with overseas, say, production or stories. Even they would find stories that are here and want to offer their own sensibility, which is another strength of Japanese industry. The culture is different, so they would bring in fresh take, fresh angle, fresh sort of ideas to the same story. So that's that's what I'm feeling. But again, I am biased because if people are not interested in working on the global scale, then they wouldn't reach out to me. So
Right.
So in terms of like what you've seen the industry change, because you've been in this for a bit now, like we all have seen, and we talked about this a little bit with Douglas. We talked a little bit this with Wakasan, and even Ijichi-san. What have you seen change, and what concerns you about the next 5-10 years?
I mean, as I said, like I definitely see a demand getting higher for collaboration, crossing borders. Definitely from the U.S. side, a lot of producers and studios want to want to find something outside of U.S. and work with talents overseas. And what concerns me a little bit is, there have been a lot of big productions, U.S. productions happening in Japan. Say it's, what's the series of Godzilla? Sorry, I'm
Oh, the
blanking.
Godzilla series? You're talking about
Yeah,
Monarch?
the Apple. Yeah. Apple.
Monarch, yeah, because that has Anna Sawai in it.
Right.
Yeah.
And say Sunny or Tokyo Vice, a lot of US productions are happening in Japan, and I hope that, in Japan we're offering what would stay in Japan. Like, I think a little bit of concern is, and I get this from, talking to other producers in Japan, I hope that they're coming and doing their own things in Japan, working with Japanese crew, and then when they leave, nothing really like stays or remains in Japan. I think it's a trend, and the trend will change. So I hope that in Japan, there will be, say, mindset change or internal change that that would tackle anything that was problematic, and in Japanese culture or film industry. Hopefully that change would stay in a positive way. But I think it's overall a good thing, about a good thing that like a lot of productions are happening in Japan, and people are more exposed to different culture and different ideas and different ways ways of working on film set. I think it's generally a good thing. And when I think about, like what US production is looking for in Japan, and vice versa, what Japanese filmmakers or productions should look for in US, I think a lot of people would say, oh, like Japan is great. Like from Japanese side, when I talk to Japanese producers or in general, like people in the industry, they would say, oh, Japan is great because Korea is hardworking and, cost effective because the labor is generally cheaper than the States, this and that. But I think that's not the answer. That might, like, it's not a bad thing, but it may not be a great thing. Cheap labor is not a great thing, I think.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't think it's a great like strength of Japanese industry. I think it's more about great stories, in the form of IP, books, anime, manga, original films, or script. I think there's a lot of great stories that are not found on global stage. It could be personal stories if it's a matter of documentaries. A lot of stories that are great in Japan that have not really been discovered on the global scale. It's also the strength about Japan is obviously beauty, beautiful location, beautiful scenery, beautiful culture, beautiful streets, beautiful city, beautiful countryside. That's irreplaceable. That just simply doesn't exist outside of Japan. Also, there's a rich history, there's rich culture, the society that functions. So those great things are really the selling points of Japan. So I think Japan shouldn't really make a selling point of hardworking and cost effective. It is not a bad thing, but it's also like offering cheap labor, which I don't agree with personally. So, great stories, beautiful history, beautiful culture. That's what what uh, to me are the strength of Japan, and that's what US is looking for. So I hope that that stays the selling point of Japanese industry. Once the trend changes, if that's still, if Japanese industry still knows how to sell those strengths, then people will still want to collaborate, I think.
Right.
Do you have a dream project, Chiaki? Other stories you want to tell in the next few years? Is there something that you're like, oh, that would be fun? Without giving anything away, we don't want to like have somebody like take your idea. But is there a dream project for Two on the Horizon?
I do have it. I probably wouldn't. I won't say it in detail because I don't have a like. I haven't it's not firm yet. Once it's firm, it's there are a couple of because I'm coming off of doing the release of documentary films, and I spoke to a lot of documentary people, filmmakers or producers, companies. I have a few ideas that I want to either produce or direct as documentary from Japan, out of Japan. But once it's firm, I'll share it with you guys. But it's not. All right. It's really general right now, so we'll see.
Yeah. Oh, I'm looking forward to hearing about that project. And as soon as you have the details in your head.
Yeah.
And,
David Lynch used to say the ideas percolate. That they're just kind of sitting there right now and just waiting.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But also exactly. But also in terms of like a dream project, really like SAKKA has been my passion, and I want to bring more. I want to help in a way that benefits the Japanese filmmakers. So we do distribute on the platform, but also through SAKKA we have done several initiatives to help Japanese filmmakers. I was part of a launching team of what we call Producer Academy in Japan. We've done the first one couple months ago, end of January, I think, February. No, sorry, beginning of February. A lot have happened today, this year. But yeah, we did a producer academy in Tokyo, and what it is a community for producers to gather and exchange thoughts, and we would have guest speakers to talk, but also it's mainly for networking and really sharing ideas, because it cannot be insular. I think what's talking about great things about Japan and US, the great thing about US is it's not insular, it's very open-minded. It's also it's a different, like, it's not an answer to what you asked, Michael, but
that's all right. I like
the way
some fun ones,
yeah, I'm kind of going off
go for it.
No, please go.
I think the way, like, the mindset is just very, very different in the States in a good way. Like we see entrepreneurship that which usually leads to a risk taking. So there's a reason why it's the entertainment capital of the world. The way business works here, I think in Japan traditionally films are looked at as art, and here films are more looked at as commerce, because it's a business that involves millions and millions of people. So I'm not saying it's not considered art. It still is, but I think the business sense, business mindset is a little bit different, and there's a reason why it became so successful in here. So it all comes from mindset, and I kind of forgot what your question was.
No, it's okay. I got it too, actually. It's funny because we a lot of people don't know this, but we always talk with the guests like a week before. And we need to start recording those conversations, because those are free-flowing. And I think we're going to. We might have to do the first one with you, Chiaki, and just do like one of our free-flowing ones. One of the things that came up was really interesting. We were talking about everything everywhere all at once. And cutting to the chase of it was that there was a little bit of disappointment that the movie did so well not that we didn't want the movie to do so well, but just that we knew that, and we've seen this time and time again, when you have something that quirky, that interesting, and we see it in the music business, we see it in the movie business, then the corporate stooges come in and they try to do their interpretations of basically that was innovative and interesting, and it never comes out right. It always seems like you can see the manufacturing to it.
Yeah.
I think go ahead. Go ahead. You're
No. It's funny. We talked about it a little bit, but everything everywhere all at once. It was a huge success, and again, like I'm all for success of independent films, like a little bit different films, but I think because it went so successful that it won an Oscar, and part of me wishes that it kind of didn't, because it would kind of stay as a cult classic, which a lot of people would be like, oh my god, like that, like 10 years from now, like a lot of people would find those films and say, oh my god, this is great films. So it's I'm happy for the film, but I'm a little bit disappointed that
it's like when your favorite band gets big and you've been listening for 10
You're
years.
right.
Why are there all these new people showing up? Like, wait, I've been following those guys. Alligator, you guys just showed up when Taylor Swift was hanging around. I'm talking about the National, obviously. But that's it, exactly. That's a funny phenomenon with art. But I will say this is that if for those of you who want to get in on the ground floor, you got to check out what Chiaki's doing, and you got to check out SAKKA Films, because that's not made by algorithm.
Yeah.
So you can check it out.
And that's so very sweet.
Right. So wrapping up, what's Chiaki? What's been your favorite thing you've seen recently? What's been inspiring you? I know, the big heavy question at the end.
I'll talk about Japanese films. It's not recent, unfortunately. I was just talking about this film with a friend of mine this morning, so that's why it stays fresh in my memory. But it's genuinely probably my best Japanese film in 2024. All the Long Nights. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on Japanese title. By Sho Miyake. All the Long Nights by Sho Miyake, who is a brilliant filmmaker in Japan. I think Sho Miyake is gonna explode on global stage very, very soon. He's already shown his films at Berlin Film Festival like 3 times, so he's not unknown, but I think he has much more potential to go much bigger. Whether or not he wants to is another thing, but I hope a lot. I mean, at the least, I hope more people would watch his films. On SAKKA, we distribute his first, not first, like one of the early works, And Your Bird Can Sing, which is a brilliant film. Funny enough, talking about Oscar, Sean Baker, who won an Oscar this year, went to Letterboxd many years ago, like 5 years ago when it came out, and mentioned And Your Bird Can Sing. And I always thought about it, when I launched SAKKA, like some great filmmakers out there are watching those films. It has to be available for wider audience. So Sean Baker talked about Sho Miyake. That's the
I noticed All the Long Nights isn't streaming here. Is this going to be a new SAKKA film? Because we could use it. That's not showing up on anywhere
we'll
else.
See. Yeah, we'll see. I won't be. I'll be lying if I say if I'm not chasing it. It's in our pursuit. But we'll see. But yeah, it's a great film. His other films are fantastic as well. So check it out if you haven't watched it.
Wonderful. Anything else we got to wrap with? You got just to wrap up. Yeah, and your movie
The Cult at the End of the World is available on streaming in the States, at least, on major platforms. It's an interesting story, and I think because of the path that I took as a producer, working in documentaries, this was possible. And it's funny, like we had so I talked about first meeting with a producer who became my co-director. That meeting wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for another film that I produced. So everything is connected. Everything kind of leads to another thing. And sort of going back to what we were discussing earlier, the path that I had in mind 20 years ago, it was definitely not the path that I took, but you know, I'm still doing what I wanted to do in the beginning. So
Yeah.
yeah, you never know. You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
So next week, 2 weeks from now, and you might have to help me with their name. I'm so sorry. Moika
Iida.
Moika Ida.
Iida, yes.
Yes, a reporter and researcher at The Economist will be joining us, and hopefully, Chiaki-san, you will join us again sometime soon.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning into Japan Expert Insights, Showtime at Japan Expert Insights. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.
Take
Have
care.
a great weekend too.
Matane.